It's Jets Weekly with your host, Connor Hrabchak.
Hey everybody, welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk. My name is Connor Hrabchak, and this is another edition of Winnipeg Jets Weekly, a show that I bring to you every single Monday, breaking down the week that was for the Winnipeg Jets and previewing the upcoming week. The Jets played 4 games this past week, so we have a lot to break down. Let's start it off with that Tuesday night game at home against the St. Louis Blues. This was definitely one of the quieter nights inside Canada Life Center. We know the Jets' schedule has been absolutely brutal as of late, and I feel like this game, everything just didn't go in their favor. The Blues taking this one by a score of 4-1, and if we take a look at the stats, this game was not even close. The shots 32-23 in St. Louis's favor. The expected goals, 5 expected goals for St. Louis and only 1.8 for the Jets. And the shot attempts a little more even, 54-53. So the Blues clearly in their shot attempts and their shots on net, getting high danger quality looks, and the Jets more on the perimeter in this game, and the power play did them no favors as well, going 0-2. This was a tough divisional loss for the Jets, and they had just come off of the 6-game road trip, and this was their 1 game back at home. And I know they don't want to use the excuse that they're a tired team, but they looked like a tired team on this night, and the St. Louis Blues under new head coach Jim Montgomery took it to them on this night, and the Jets dropping this one to the Blues 4-1 before hitting the road for a short 2-game road trip starting in Buffalo. A much better effort from the Winnipeg Jets saw them take away a 3-2 victory in overtime over the Buffalo Sabres, and I talked about how the Jets looked like a tired team on the Tuesday night against the St. Louis Blues. If you want an example of them maybe fighting through that fatigue on this night, look no further than Josh Morrissey. Morrissey played nearly 30 minutes of total time on ice in this game, and in overtime had a really long shift near the end of overtime, but the puck was on his stick and he had a breakaway from about the hash marks in the defensive zone. He skated the length of the ice. Players were catching up to him, but he was still able to get the puck over to Adam Lowry and then was around the net, shoveled the rebound over to Lowry, who scored the overtime winner. Josh Morrissey, we know he does it all for this team, but that play especially with how the schedule's been, how the Jets looked on Tuesday night, fatigued against a hungry St. Louis Blues team. It was a nice bounce back performance. Still some things that obviously the Jets would like to clean up, and they did on Saturday in Chicago, but this was a good effort, and the Jets walked away with the 2 points, a 3-2 overtime win against the Buffalo Sabres. That brings us to Saturday afternoon against the Chicago Blackhawks, and this was one of the weirder games of the season. The Jets were trailing 2-1 after the first period, and there was a lot of panic on social media about how the Jets had been playing as of late. Obviously, the Tuesday game against St. Louis was a dud. The Thursday game, they barely scraped by the Buffalo Sabres, and then came out looking a little flat against the Chicago Blackhawks. But the back 40 minutes of this game are maybe the best 2 periods the Jets have played all season long. As you can see behind me here, they allowed 0.81 expected goals against. That is by far their lowest mark in a single game this season. And across the entire NHL so far this year, only one team has had a lower expected goals against amount in a single game. It was the Boston Bruins against the Canucks. On November 26th, they allowed 0.78 expected goals against. So the Winnipeg Jets turned in one of the best defensive performances across the entire NHL so far this season. 35 shot attempts against, that is nearly unheard of in today's NHL. 14 shots as well. I know Chicago is a rebuilding team. They came into this game as the 32nd ranked team, but you just don't see this in today's NHL. And the Jets in the back 40 of this game dominated on the cycle, kept the puck away, generated 4.62 expected goals of their own, and really just handled the Blackhawks on this night. It was a really, really strong performance, especially on the defensive end for the Winnipeg Jets, as they picked up the 2 points against the Chicago Blackhawks. And that brings us to Sunday night's game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. And my initial reaction to this game was very similar to the one I had on Tuesday when the Jets took on the St. Louis Blues. Coming off of the road, they looked like a fatigued team. They got outworked for the majority of the game. But then I took a look at the stats, and it was really interesting because on this show before, I've talked about how hitting 70 shot attempts is a really good benchmark for success in a single game. The Jets had 68 shot attempts in this game, but only 24 of them actually made it on net. The Blue Jackets blocked a ton of shots in this game, and the Jets only generating 2.69 expected goals. That means a lot of these shot attempts were very low danger from the outside. The Blue Jackets did a great job keeping the Jets to the outside and maybe inflating a bit of these stats because the Jets looked to me like the second best team in this game, even though they had nearly 70 shot attempts. The power play finally got on the board. They've been on a sharp decline ever since Nikolai Ehlers has been injured. They got on the board in this game. Kyle Connor scored his 15th of the season, but it simply wasn't enough on this night. Another quiet night inside Canada Life Center as there wasn't much for the fans to cheer about in a 4-1 loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now let's get into the awards. I hand out the hardest working Jet and 3 stars of the week every single week on this program. But before we get into that, make sure you hit the like button down below, hit that subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss this exact video every single Monday and all the great content we've got coming out on the WSG channel. Let's get into the awards.
The hardest working Jet.
My hardest working Jet of the week is Jets defenseman Josh Morrissey. He had the play in Buffalo where at the end of a shift, at the end of a game where he played nearly 30 minutes, he skated the length of the ice to get that puck to Adam Lowry and shoveled it over so that Lowry could net the overtime winner. Ever since Dylan Samberg got hurt a handful of games ago against the Nashville Predators, Morrissey has been playing more and more as his responsibilities are growing. Scott O'Neill's leaning on him more, and he's responding to that by making some big plays in crucial moments for the Winnipeg Jets. He's my hardest working Jet of the week.
And now, the Jets Weekly 3 stars of the week.
My 3rd star of the week is Jets captain Adam Lowry. He's the one that benefited from that play that Morrissey made in overtime as he scored the winner in that game against Buffalo. And then Saturday against Chicago, the Jets' third line played maybe their best game of the season, shutting down the Blackhawks' top players, but Nino Niederreiter and Mason Appleton also adding a goal in this game, each of them. So a strong performance from that third line. We know Adam Lowry's at the center of it all. He's my 3rd star of the week. My 2nd star of the week is Jets forward Gabriel Vilardi. He had goals in back-to-back games this week. Both of them were deflections. We know Gabriel Vilardi's hands are elite. He's got the ability to deflect pucks out of midair. The first one against Buffalo was a Hayden Fleury point shot that he deflected over the glove side of the goaltender. And then against Chicago, a Logan Stanley point shot that he got a stick on as well and got his 11th goal of the season. He's on pace for over 30 goals this season, and he had goals in back-to-back games this week. For that, he's my 2nd star of the week. My 1st star of the week is Jets top line center Mark Scheifele, who is looking more and more healthy as of late. Going back to that grueling 6-game road trip where Mark Scheifele was not taking faceoffs, clearly dealing with something, he had 0 goals and 2 assists, both of which came on empty net goals in that entire 6-game road trip. Now he's flipped the switch. He's back in the middle on that top line, and he had the game-winning goal on Saturday against the Chicago Blackhawks. He's produced all week long, filling the stat sheet, up to 31 points in 29 games this year. Mark Scheifele is my 1st star of the week. Now, let's quickly dive into the Winnipeg Jets' upcoming schedule as they are set to play consecutive home games for the first time in a month. The last time they played 2 straight home games was November 7th and 9th. Since then, they've played just 2 home games against the Florida Panthers and the St. Louis Blues, both of which were one-and-dones before hitting the road again for an extended stretch away from home. So finally, we have an extended stretch of hockey here in Winnipeg inside Canada Life Center, and it all starts Tuesday night against the Boston Bruins. An Original 6 team, they recently just fired their head coach and have since improved their record since then, so that should be a great game. Thursday night against the Vegas Golden Knights, the Jets will look for revenge, avenging that 4-3 loss a handful of games ago on the road in Vegas, before getting set for a Saturday night all-Canadian matchup against the Montreal Canadiens. Should be a great Saturday night atmosphere inside Canada Life Center. Then the Jets will hit the road again, taking on the Sharks and Ducks in a back-to-back next week on the West Coast. I'm going to have breakdowns of all 3 of these home games on next week's edition of Winnipeg Jets Weekly next Monday. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss it. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. If you enjoyed, make sure you hit the like button down below and hit that notification bell so you don't miss Winnipeg Jets Weekly every single Monday morning, breaking down the week that was for the Jets, previewing the upcoming week. I'll see you all next week after a great slate of games here in Winnipeg at Canada Life Center. Enjoy the games this week, everyone, and I'll see you next Monday. Have a great week, everyone.